mother has a job that takes up her day. The father also works time. Their children attend school. They follow all the rules America sets, yet they do not have a home. They are not struggling with addiction. They are not without jobs. They are not careless. So what went wrong? Because when you understand the reason working families are losing their homes in America, you can't ignore it. The scariest part is that this is not an incident. It is becoming an occurrence. For years, the problem of homelessness in America was seen as something that happened to someone. Someone you would see on the street, someone who was clearly struggling, someone who was not like you. But then things started to change. The face of homelessness in America began to change. Now, homelessness in America includes families who have lunch boxes in their car, parents who get ready for work in gas station bathrooms, and kids who do their homework in motel rooms that are paid for one night at a time. This is not what most people think of when they think of homelessness in America. That is why this problem has been hidden for so long, because many of these families do not look like they are homeless in America. They still go to work, they still show up, they still smile, they still try to take care of their kids. Even though they look okay, they are actually struggling with a kind of financial crisis that can happen very quickly. Most people think that homelessness in America happens because someone made a mistake or because they failed in some way. But that is not what is really going on. Homelessness in America is often caused by something smaller. It can be a rent increase, a kid, a car that breaks down, a landlord who sells the building, or a paycheck that is late. That is all it takes for a family to become homeless in America. This raises a question: how did a country like America, which is very rich, become a place where a normal family can lose their home because of something small like a car problem? To understand this, we have to look at the things that are not true, the lies that we tell ourselves about homelessness in America. For a time, Americans thought they knew the deal. You work hard, you have a job, you follow the rules. You will have the basics at least. You might not have a lot of money. You will have a place to live, food to eat, and a bed for your kids to sleep in. You will have a door that you can lock at night. That was the promise. Here is the thing that nobody wants to talk about. This promise is not working anymore. It started to break a little at a time. Now it is all falling apart at once. In city after city, the cost of rent is going up faster than people's pay. Houses are becoming too expensive to buy. Taking care of kids is getting really expensive. Medical care is getting more costly. Groceries are getting pricier. Insurance is getting pricier. Utilities are getting pricier. Everything is getting more expensive except for the one thing that families need the most. They need some room to breathe. This is not a nice way of saying things. When we talk about money, having an extra is what keeps you safe. This extra money is called margin. It is the money that you have after you pay for all the things you need, like rent, childcare, gas, food, electricity, phone, and medicine. When you do not have this money, a family might look like they are doing okay, but they are not. They are like they are standing on a trapdoor, could open at any time. The surprising thing is that the families who are now losing their homes are not always the Americans. They are the Americans who are getting squeezed. These are families who make much money to get any real help, but not enough to pay for a place to live. These are families where both parents work. They are just one rent increase away from losing everything. These are parents who have a job, no money saved up. These are families who look like they are doing fine until the day they cannot pay for a motel room anymore. When things start to go wrong, they can go wrong really fast. A missed payment becomes a fee. A late fee becomes a notice. A notice becomes an eviction filing. An eviction filing becomes a stain that follows a family from apartment to apartment. What happened next really surprised a lot of people studying this crisis. Losing housing did not just make families poorer. It made them less likely to get a place to live. That means the very event that creates the emergency also makes it harder to get out of it. A family can still have money coming in. They can still have people who will say things about them. They can still want to pay their rent. With an eviction record, bad credit, and rents going up every month, it gets harder to find a new place to live. Application denied. The deposit is too high. The family does not make money. No pets are allowed. No one with an eviction is allowed. They want 3 times the rent. The waiting list is full. Here is where the story gets interesting. Many families do not go from having an apartment to living on the street. They disappear in stages. First, they move in with relatives, then a friend, then a cheap motel, then they live live in their car, then a shelter if there is space, then they have nowhere to go. This is why much family homelessness remains hidden. It happens between addresses, a minivan parked overnight in a lot, a child sleeping on a folded blanket behind glass, a father setting an alarm so the kids can wake up somewhere that does not feel like they failed. By the time people see homelessness, the crisis is already much deeper than it looks. There is one thing behind all this that matters more than almost anything else. Housing is that thing. Housing is the key. Housing is what matters. Most people think homelessness is mainly about people not having jobs. That's not true. For families, the real problem is that housing costs are much higher than what they earn. One small setback can change everything. In parts of America, even people who work full-time can't afford to rent a home. Just think about that for a moment. Having a job doesn't automatically mean you can afford a home anymore, which used to be the case. Now it's a factor in this crisis. Here's where things get even worse. When rent takes up 40%, 50%, or 60% of a family's income, their home is no longer a safe foundation. It becomes a countdown to disaster. Every other problem becomes more serious. If a child gets sick, the family struggles to pay. If the car needs repairs, they struggle again. If work hours are cut, they struggle more. If the landlord raises rent by $300, everything falls apart. This isn't happening because families are being careless. It's happening because the system has become less flexible. There was a time when one mistake would hurt. Now one mistake can end the month. Sometimes it ends the lease. Sometimes it ends with the family losing their home. Then something else happened that made things worse. America became more expensive in ways that add up. If rent rises, families have to move out. If they move out, they have to drive more. If they drive more, transportation costs go up. If transportation costs go up, they save less. If childcare is still too expensive, one parent may have to work. If one parent works less, the family becomes more vulnerable. That's the trap. Every problem makes the next one worse. That's why this crisis isn't just about housing. It's a chain reaction of living costs. That's still not the biggest surprise, because there's another reason working families become homeless that almost nobody talks about: shame. Families try to keep this crisis hidden until it's too much to handle. They don't share it with others. They don't post about it on media. They don't tell the school away. They don't want relatives to find out. They don't want coworkers to know. Most of all, they don't want their kids to feel it. So they keep up the act of being normal. Normal at work. Normal when dropping off kids at school. Normal in text messages. Normal when out in public. While they pretend to be normal, they're actually falling apart. Many Americans still think of homelessness as an obvious disaster. But for families, it's often a private disaster that's important because keeping it delays getting help. Keeping it quiet hides how big the problem is. Keeping it quiet makes policymakers think it's not that bad. What happens next is one of the cruelest parts. Kids pick up on everything. They notice the stress, the hushed conversations, the moves, the packed bags, the nights, the early mornings, the fear in their parents' voices when money is talked about. Even when parents try to shield them, kids know something's off. Now, it's not just about money. It affects how they grow up, their emotions, their education. A kid who doesn't know where they'll be sleeping week isn't just dealing with not having a home. They're carrying instability into every classroom, every friendship, every part of who they're. That's not an effect of the crisis. That's the crisis. But if all this true, then why are more working families getting hit hard now? The answer is more than rent. You know what's really going on with family homelessness in America? It's not just about people not working enough. It's about not having any money or resources to fall back on. That's the issue. A family can do everything, work hard, manage their money, take care of their kids, but still lose their home if they don't have any extra savings. They might not have money to pay rent or afford childcare or get health care when they need it. They might not have time to take care of their family or a support system to help them out. When that happens, having a job just isn't enough to keep a family from becoming homeless. That's a truth that many people still don't understand. We tend to think of homelessness as something that happens to people on the fringes of society. The reality is that it can happen to anyone, even ordinary families who seem like they're doing everything right. Imagine a family where both parents are working hard, cutting back on expenses, eating at home every night, and skipping vacations. They might look like they're being responsible. The truth is that they might still be struggling to make ends meet. That's what's so disturbing about family homelessness in America. When working families lose their homes, problem for them. It's a problem for all of us. It's a sign that our system is broken. Our wages aren't keeping up with the cost of housing. Point one emergency can wipe out years of work. Kids can do everything in school but still end up sleeping in a car at night. Even working full-time doesn't guarantee that you'll be able to afford a home. That's not a policy problem. It's a moral one. Once you understand that the question isn't how did that family end up homeless, the real question is how more families are just one step away from homelessness. The line between having a home and being homeless is really thin in America. Most people don't realize just how thin it is until they're standing on it themselves. So when you hear the phrase family, do not think of lazy people. Do not think of people who have failed in life. Do not think of a life that's totally different from yours. Picture a family with a job. They have to pay rent. They have a kid. Their car is broken. They got a notice from their landlord. They have to stay in a motel. Their back seat is full of blankets. Picture how quickly normal life can fall apart when there is no money to spare. That is what homelessness looks like in America today. It's not about people who are jobless. It's about how fragile life can be. It's not always a mess. Sometimes it's exhaustion. It's not always about making choices. Often it's just about math that doesn't add up. That might be the scariest truth of all, that in a country rich as ours, more and more families are struggling. They are not struggling because they don't want to work. They are struggling because having a job is not enough to keep them safe. If that bothers you, it should. This story is not just a problem that is happening else. It is about what happens when the foundation of stability gets weaker every year. Millions of people are living on it without realizing it could break. For some families, it already has.